So, hello everyone. Our today's topic is the child psychology. So, what is child psychology? It is the science or the study of the child mind and how it functions. So, it is also the science that deals with the mental power or interaction between conscious and the subconscious elements in a child. Now, let us discuss the various theories of the child psychology. So, the child psychology theory they can be broadly classified into two groups: psychodynamic theory, that includes psychosexual theory or the psychoanalytical theory by Sigmund Freud, psychosocial theory that developed by Erik Erikson, and cognitive theory by the James Jean Piaget. What are the theories of learning and development of behavior? They are classical condition by Pavlov, operant condition by Skinner, social learning theory by Bandura, hierarchy of need by Maslow, and Meller theory of development. So let us discuss these theories one by one. The first is the psychoanalytical theory. Who gave this theory? It was Sigmund Freud. So what is this theory? The psychoanalytical theory, it is a way of understanding how people behave and develop their personalities toward their thoughts and feeling. So it was Sigmund Freud who believed that the dental problems could be related to psychological problems. So the Fred thought that the dental problems, especially with the mouth and the teeth, they could be linked to early childhood experiences and they conflict in the mind that person may not be aware of. He also believed that problems that are related to aggression, sexuality, and the oral fixation like nail biting, overeating could be connected to the dental issues. So the Fred described the human mind with the help of two models. They are the topographic model and the psychic model or the psychic triad. The topographical model, according to that, the human mind is can be divided into conscious mind, pre-conscious mind, and unconscious mind. The conscious mind is the part of our mind that we are aware of at any given moment. It includes our thoughts, perceptions, and sensation. The second is the pre-conscious mind. It is the part of our mind that we are currently not aware of, but can easily bring to consciousness if needed. That includes memories, thought that are that are just below the surface of our awareness. The third is the unconscious mind. It is the part of our mind that we are not aware of and cannot easily bring to consciousness. It includes the thought, feelings, and memories that are hidden from our awareness as they are too painful or threatening to face. So according to the Fred theory, the psychic triad it is like a iceberg with only small part visible above the surface, that is the conscious mind, while the much larger and more influential part is hidden below the surface, that is the pre-conscious and the unconscious mind. The second is the psychic model. The psychic model proposed by Fred, it is composed of three parts: ID, ego, and superego. So let us understand what does that mean. The first is the ID part. The ID part is the part of mind that immediately want satisfaction of our basic needs and desire, like the hunger, thirst, and the sex. Second is the ego. It is that part of mind that tries to find to satisfy these needs in socially acceptable way. The third is the superego part. It is the part of mind that represents our values, ideals, and sense of right and wrong. So it judges our thoughts, actions according to the culture and social norms. So according to Freud, psychological problems they arise when these three parts of mind they are not properly balanced. A healthy mind what it needs is a strong ego that can satisfy our needs and desire in a way that is acceptable to society. Now what are the ego defense mechanisms? So the displacement, projection, ego defense, rationalization, and Daniel Diaz all are the defense mechanism. So these Sigmund Freud believed that the people used to cope with anxiety and protect their self-esteem. The first is the displacement. So this defense mechanism involves shifting one feeling or impulses from object that is causing anxiety to a safer, more acceptable one. Like a person who is angry with their boss may come home and take out frustration on their spouse. Second is the projection. So this defense mechanism involves attributing one's own unacceptable thoughts or feeling to someone else. For example, a person who has a strong desire to cheat on their partner may accuse their partner of being unfaithful. The third is the ego defense. This is a broad category of defense mechanism that helps to protect the ego from the anxiety. So example includes repression that is pushing unwanted thoughts or the feelings into the unconscious, regression, reverting to an earlier mold childlike way of behaving, and reaction, formation, behaving in a way that is opposite to one's true feeling. The other is rationalization. So this defense mechanism involves creating a plausible but untrue explanation for one's behavior in order to justify it. So, for example, a person who drinks heavily, it might rationalize their behavior by saying they are just blowing off steam after a long day at work. Denial. So, this defense mechanism involves the refusing to accept or acknowledge a painful reality. Like a person who is diagnosed with a serious illness may deny that anything is wrong, even in the face of overwhelming evidence. So, according to Freud, these defense mechanisms are an unconscious way to protect ourselves from anxiety and discomfort. So, overusing them can lead to unhealthy pattern of behavior and problems in the relationship. According to the Freud, a child develops in the following stages: oral stage, anal stage, urethral stage, phallic stage, latency stage, or the genital stage. So these are the stages and age. Consider their age at the stages at following age. So phallic stage develop at 3 to 5 years, latency stage 5 to 11 years, genital stage 11 to 13 years. So what are the stages of the development of the Sigmund Freud? They are the oral stage, anal stage, phallic stage, latency phase, or the genital phase. So the oral stage that happens from birth to about 18 months old, where the primary source of pleasure and satisfaction it comes from the mouth. The infant explore the world through sucking, biting, chewing on the things, including their own fingers or the thumbs. So if the infant it is weaned too early or too late, they may develop habits like thumb sucking, nail biting. The anal stage that happens between 18 to 3 years of focus of pleasure that shift from anus, and the children learn to control their own bowel movement. Potty training during this stage can be major event for the child as they learn to control their bodily function. Phallic stage that happens between 3 to 6 years where the focus of pleasure shifts to the genitals. The children becomes curious about their own genitals and may begin to explore their own body. The boys experience the Oedipus complex where they have sexual desire for their mother and see their father as a rival. And the girls experience the Electra complex where they have sexual desire for their father and see their mother as a rival. Important is the Oedipus and Electra complex. So, what is Oedipus complex? So, the Oedipus complex refers to boy's unconscious desire to possess his mother and get rid of his father as a rival. The boy may feel jealous of his father relationship with his mother and may wish to replace him. Whereas Electra complex, it is just the opposite of Oedipus complex. It is a similar phenomena that occurs in the girls, where they desire their father may feel envious of their mother relationship, in which they feel jealous of their mother's relationship with him. So both of these complexes they are considered to be normal developmental process during the childhood, but if they persist into the adulthood, they can develop psychological issues. So the merits of Freud theory, it is the one of the earliest and most comprehensive theory uh, of lifelong psychological development. What are the demerits? So many of the Freud theories are difficult to test scientifically and are therefore open to criticism. So they are also criticized for being sexist and being based on narrow Eurocentric view of the world. Next is the psychosocial theory by Erik Erikson. So he gave 8 stages of development throughout their life, 8 stages of child that develop throughout their life. The first is the trust versus mistrust. It is seen in infancy. The infant learn to trust or mistrust their caregivers. So based on the consistency and the reliability of their interactions. The second is autonomy versus shame and doubt. It is seen in the toddlerhood. In the toddlerhood, the toddlers learn to be independent and develop a sense of autonomy, or they may feel ashamed and doubt about their abilities. The third is the initiative versus the guilt theory. It is seen in the preschool. The preschoolers learn to initiate activity and develop a sense of purpose, or they may feel guilty about their actions. Industry versus inferiority. The children they learn to be competent and productive, or may feel inferior and struggle with low self esteem. Other is identity versus role confusion. Seen in adolescence, the adolescent develop a sense of identity or may be confused about who they are and their role in the society. Intimacy versus isolation. The young adults form close, meaningful relation or may become isolated and struggle with the intimacy. The generative versus stagnation seen in middle adulthood. The middle-aged adults contribute to society and future generation or may become stagnant and feel unproductive. The last is the integrity versus despair seen in the late childhood. The older adults reflect on their lives and feel a sensation of satisfaction about their achievements. According to the James Piaget theory of cognitive development, so the sequence of development it has been categorized into 4 major stages. They are sensory motor stage, pre-operational stage, concrete operational stage, and the formal operation stage. So the sensory motor it is the first stage in the James Piaget theory of the cognitive development. that is the study of how children develop thinking and understanding over the time. It occurs from the birth to 2 years of old age. So the child will learn about the world through their senses like sight, touch, and taste, and their motor skills such as crawling or grasping. So they develop object permanence. What is that? That is the understanding that object continue to exist even when they are out of sight. So infants in the sensory motor stage also begin to learn about the cause and effect. So they may experiment with the dropping effect to see what happens or shake a rattle to hear the noise it makes. So through this experience they begin to develop a sense of how the world works and how they can interact with it. The next stage is pre-operational stage that occurs about 2 years to about 7 years old age. Here the child will develop more mental representation of word they used. They begin to use symbols such as words and picture to represent objects and ideas. So child here will develop the language skills. They can understand and use words to express their thoughts and feeling. So in this stage, the child may struggle with the logical thinking and the understand the perspective of others. Like a child might think that a tall, thin glass it has more liquid in it than a short, wider glass, even if they contain the same amount. Third is the concrete stage that develops around 7 years to 11 years. Here the child begins to think more, the child becomes more skilled, thinking logically and understanding the cause and effect relationship. So they are able to understand the concept such as conservation, which is the understanding that quantity of something remain the same even after its appearance or arrangement changes. The formal operation it is the fourth and the final stage of the cognitive development that begins around 12 age and continue through the adulthood. So here the child ability is to think in more complex ways, multiple perspectives, consider multiple perspectives and solve the problems using logical and critical thinking. In the pre-operational stage, the child thinking is still limited by egocentrism and centration. What is egocentrism? It refers to child tendency to see the world through their own perspective, and they may struggle to understand that other people may have a different thought or feeling. For example, if a child hides a toy, they may think that no one can find it because they cannot see it. Other concept is centration. It refers to child tendency to focus on only one aspect of situation and ignore all other. For example, a child may focus only on the height of the glass of water and does not realize that the amount of the water in the glass that has changed. So the James Piaget theory of cognitive development includes several concepts that help us to explain how children learn and develop their understanding of the world. Like constructivism, Piaget believes that children activity construct their own understanding of world through their experience and interaction with the environment. So the children they are not the passive recipient of knowledge but rather active participant in their own learning. What is cognitive equilibrium? In this the child they are constantly trying to make sense of new information and experience. So when their existing understanding of the world fits with the new information, so they experience a state of cognitive equilibrium. So when this information does not fit with the existing scheme, they experience a stage of cognitive disequilibrium. What is animism? So during the pre-operational stage, the child may exhibit animistic thinking. That means they attribute human-like qualities to a non-human object. Like a children may believe that sun is happy when it is shining. and sad when it is covered by clouds. The example of constructivism is that the child survey the dental chair airways syringe. The example of cognitive equilibrium is that uh, the child is explained about the equipment or the instrument and allowed to deal with it, like the airway syringe. And the animism, like the child is explained about the radiograph as the picture. So in the concrete operation, uh, like the child can concrete instruction, like we can tell the child this is a retainer brush. And the example of abstract instruction, like wear the retainer every night and keep it clean. Example of centering is that the example of centration, the centration means that child is tend to focus on one aspect of situation and ignore the other important details. So they have difficult seeing multiple perspectives or consider more than one factor at a time. So we can allow the child to hold the mirror to see what is being done on his teeth. Egocentrism, the child thinking is still limited by egocentrism. They tend to see the world only from their own perspective and they have difficult understanding what people have different thoughts or feeling. So in the egocentrism, the child has achieved the level of understanding and it gets involved in the treatment, like he holds the suction tips by himself. So what are the merits of this Piaget theory? It is comprehensive framework for understanding how children learn and develop their thinking skills. The demerits, some children may develop cognitive skills faster or some slower than others. So that does not account for the individual differences in the development. It does not address the other aspect of development such as emotional or social development. The other is the classical conditional theory that was given by Pavlov. So he conducted a famous experiment with the dog where he observed that the dog began to salivate at the sound of bell even when there was no food present. So in the classical conditioning, a neutral stimulus, in this case the sound of bell, is repeatedly paired with unconditional stimulus, that is the food, which naturally elect a specific response, that is salivation. So after pairing of the neutral stimulus and unconditioning the stimulus, the neutral stimulus alone now can elect the same response. Now the salivation, even without the presence of the unconditional stimulus, the food. So even without the presence of food, now the salivation can be elected. So this is called the conditioned stimulus. So what is the conditional stimulus? Here is the sound of bell. And what is the conditioned response here? That is the salivation. So in this experiment, the sound of the bell, it becomes associated with the food. So it triggered the dog to salivate even when there was no food present. So this type of learning can also occur in human. So the stages of this are equitization. It is the initial stage of learning in the classical condition where a neutral stimulus such as the sound of the bell is paired with the unconditional stimulus such as the food to elicit a conditional response, that is salivation. So more than times the neutral stimulus it is paired with the unconditional stimulus, the stronger the association will become. The second is generalization. This is when the organism responds to a new stimulus in a similar way to the original conditional stimulus. For example, the dog has been conditioned to salivate at the sound of the bell. It may also salivate at the sound of similar sounding tone. Third is the extinction. It is the weakening and eventually disappearance of the conditional response. When the conditional stimulus, such as the sound of bell, it is repeatedly present without the unconditional stimulus, such as the food. So in other words, the association between the two stimulus weaken over time. and they are no longer paired together. The last is the discrimination. It is the ability to differentiate between the similar stimuli and the response to the specific condition stimulus, such as the sound of the particular bell, and no to the similar bell, such as a different sounding bell. Other is the operant conditioners theory by Skinner. So it is a type of learning where behavior they are modified on the basis of consequences. So a behavior is followed by a consequence that is either a reward or punishment. So that can increase or decrease the likelihood of that behavior that is being repeated in the future. So if a behavior is followed by reward, such as a praise or treat, it is likely to be repeated in the future. If it is followed by punishment, it is less likely to be repeated in the future. So it can be positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, omission, and the punishment. The positive reinforcement is the pleasant consequence following the response, like child rewarded for the good behavior. Negative reinforcement is like withdrawal of the high-speed handpiece. If the child is afraid of sound, and you can substitute it with hand instrument or slow speed handpiece. The third is the omission, removal of the pleasant sound after being a particular response. So if the child misbehaved during dental treatment, his favorite toy is taken away from short time. So that results in omission. And fourth is the punishment, that is use of the palatal rake in the correction of the tongue thrust habit. The next is the social learning theory. It suggests that people learn new behavior and attitude by observing and modeling the behavior of others. That was given by Bandura. That learning is a social process that occurs through observation and imitation of others. For example, a dental professional could demonstrate proper brushing and flossing technique for their patient, allowing the patient to observe and learn how to properly care for their teeth and gums. Other theory is hierarchy of needs, that was given by Maslow. So it is based upon a pyramid with 5 levels. The physiological needs, these are the most basic needs, including like food, water, shelter. So without these needs being met, person cannot survive. Second is the safety needs. So once the physiological needs are met, people need to feel safe and secure. So they can include physical safety, financial stability, and protection from the harm. The third is the love and belonging needs. Once the safety needs are met, the people need to feel a sense of feeling and connection with the others. That includes relation with family, friends, and community. Other is the esteem needs. Once the need for love and belonging is met, the people need to feel a sense of self-worth and achievement. Other are the self-actualization needs. It is the highest level of hierarchy, where the people strive to fulfill their full potential to achieve personal growth and fulfillment. So according to Maslow theory, people must have their lower level needs fulfilled before they can focus on the higher level needs.